Update. Me 25 female with my fiancé 25 male arguing over our wedding budget might end our relationship. Original post. My fiancé and I have been together for 4 years and everything has been great up until now. We've always been in agreement about our lives and what we want for the future. Finances has always been one thing that we agreed on the most. Monthly budget, not buying excessively, living within our means, and finances including the wedding. He's always known from early on that I love big weddings and always wanted to have one, and that would be an area that I would splurge a little on. He was always supportive of this and in agreement with me and said that he'd like one too. In October, we got engaged and things were great until we started the wedding planning. We were just getting the basics done and mainly doing research into prices. And we discovered that we didn't have quite as much money as we would like to have for a big wedding. And we were both disappointed, but started looking into how we could scale back and stretch our budget in the most efficient way possible. Then, in the beginning of November, my parents gave us a hefty chunk of money for the wedding and all of the other expenses that go along with it, including the honeymoon and the engagement party and the bridal shower, all of the good stuff we weren't going to get to have before in our budget, and possibly even have some leftover. The only things that we would have to pay for would be our bachelor/bachelorette parties. We were insanely excited and grateful. And my fiancé even commented that now we could have the wedding of our dreams, and we went planning in our merry excited way. At Thanksgiving, my fiancé went to visit his family on the opposite side of the country, but I wasn't able to go with him. And when he came back from that trip, he seemed more standoffish about the wedding, and pretty much stopped helping me plan it. When I asked him why, he said that he was just tired, and I let it go. Then when he got back into helping me plan it, he was suddenly against having a big wedding, despite what we'd previously talked about and planned. He said that having a large wedding seemed like an annoying waste of money, which was news to me because I'd always been excited about having said wedding. Then it progressed to him saying that having a big wedding would make his family uncomfortable and make them feel out of place because they didn't grow up with/around lots of grand things. He also said that his family wouldn't be able to fly out for the wedding. So I proposed that we take some of the money out of the big wedding and have another, much smaller ceremony at the reception, where his family would be comfortable and within a reasonable driving distance. He said no, F that, let's just have a smaller wedding to begin with. When I asked why, he would never give me a legit reason. He would always dance around a question and cause an argument that was off the topic of the wedding. We stopped planning the wedding and things were pretty strained for the next little bit of time up until Christmas. We flew out to see his family, and they weren't very welcoming towards me at all. Christmas Day was basically just them being condescending about the budget and wedding in general, including opening presents where they would make comments about if it was good enough for me, which was shocking because that's never been an issue in any interaction we'd ever had, or in my life in general. The whole day just basically went like that. When we got back to our hotel, I asked my fiancé what the heck all of that was about. He pretended to not know for a while. Then he told me that when he went for Thanksgiving, he told them about the wedding budget and they said that it was too much for a wedding. And they didn't want to come because they felt it would be uppity, flashy, and arrogant. When I asked him if he defended what was originally our choice, he exploded and told me that he felt that the big wedding budget was materialistic and ridiculous. When I asked how it was materialistic, he said that it just was and that he was sick of my materialistic behavior. Again, I asked what he meant by that. And he said that me liking high-end stuff and getting my nails and hair done was materialistic behavior. This confused me too because while I like nicer things, it's never been a requirement. And I don't demand that everything I have be expensive and high-end, and I don't care about how much money a person has or makes or anything like that. Plus, when I do buy stuff for myself, it's from my own personal money in my own bank account that I deposit money in after all of the bills and necessities with my fiancé have been taken care of. I've never once asked my fiancé or anyone else to pay for any of that stuff. And me spending money from that account isn't a regular occurrence whatsoever. My fiancé even has his own separate account for things he wants and likes too. Then he jumped back to the wedding and said that he finds it stupid and irresponsible to spend thousands of dollars in one day, just to get a piece of paper that we could get at a courthouse. He also kept mentioning that we could spend the money elsewhere. When I asked what exactly he meant by elsewhere, he didn't have an answer and just kept saying that we could spend it on better things, like a new house or cars or something. We bought a nice house 2 years ago, so that argument was out. We each have nice running cars, so that was out. And we can't have kids, so that's out too. And when I brought all of that up to him, he just stormed out. We're back home now and we haven't talked about it because every time I bring it up, he gets pissed and storms out of the room and shuts me down. His behavior in this whole situation and lack of communication with me makes me nervous because something is going on, but I don't know what. If he keeps continuing this way, I don't want to get married to him because I don't know if our future would be like this with other things. It's not about not wanting the wedding, it's just his attitude and the way that he's gone about everything. Now for the top advice before reading the first update. Am I the only person who thinks it would be really rude to take money your parents gave you for the wedding and spend the majority of it on something else? I know that there are a range of opinions in how much input paying for a wedding gives parents/other parties the right to make decisions about wedding details. But if I gave someone, say, $20,000 for the wedding and all of the other expenses that go along with it, including the honeymoon and the engagement party and bridal shower, and they had a $5,000 wedding and spent $15,000 on a new car without consulting me, or offering to give the rest back, I feel like I'd be a bit annoyed. I think you need to tell your fiancé that whatever money your parents gave you that isn't spent on the wedding will be returned to them. I'd be interested to hear his reaction to that. This is the only responsible way to handle their money that was specifically set up for one line item, the wedding. I would be curious what Opie's history was with a significant other's family as well, since this would be odd behavior to see out of the blue. Yes to that. I think the fiancé's family want all the money for whatever greedy reasons they have in mind. It sounds like they did a number on this guy when he visited, laying a massive guilt trip on him and turning him against the whole big wedding idea. It should be made perfectly clear that whatever money isn't used for the wedding will be returned to her parents. It sounds like his parents felt inferior because they couldn't contribute like your parents could, and instead of accepting it graciously, they worked on your fiancé and turned him against the wedding and you. This is about a hell of a lot more than a wedding. Return the money to your parents with thanks and call off the wedding for now. If you can't communicate about this, if his response to disagreement is to turn on you, I don't see how this is going to work. This, especially after Opie's parents chipped in a huge amount and her fiancé's parents couldn't. His parents don't want to accept that they're too poor to contribute as much as Opie's parents, so they have to rationalize some other reason they won't chip in as much. Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a thing. Now for the first update. Thank you to all who offered advice the last time. I took some suggestions and they definitely helped bring the situation to a point. About 2 days after I made the first post, my fiancé and I got into a really huge argument, and I figured out that he did want to send the money to his family. He came home and I told him that we were going to talk about what was going on, and this time no amount of arguing was going to change the subject. As soon as I said that, we started arguing again, and he kept telling me that the money should be used elsewhere. I told him that my parents gave us the money solely for the wedding, and that any money we didn't use was going back to them, unless they just insisted that we keep it. End of story. He demanded that we just ask my parents if we could keep the money and put it toward other uses. And I told him that I wasn't doing that, and especially if he wouldn't even tell me what those other uses were. He finally broke and said that he felt it was wrong to have a big wedding when his family could use the money for more practical and useful things. When I asked him what those things were, he meant sending his brother to the college of his dreams out of state. He said that over Thanksgiving when he was with his family, he was telling them about the wedding and the money that my parents had given us, which really wasn't necessary and shouldn't have been discussed in the first place. And his family started telling him about the college his brother wanted to go to and how they couldn't afford it. It really felt bad for limiting him. Then, according to my fiancé, they began asking him how he could go through with a wedding using all of the money that could be used to help pay for some of his brother's schooling and take some of the weight and stress off of their shoulders. He started feeling guilty and they pointed the blame towards me. And because he didn't want to feel guilty, he went along with it. and basically agreed with them and told them they were right when they said that they didn't want to come to a wedding and support someone who didn't want to help them. Just conveniently leaving out the fact that I had no clue how bad their financial situation was, and also that the wedding was a mutual decision. And he said that the reason he was so standoffish and kept lashing out at me whenever I tried to talk to him about it was because he felt bad that he'd changed our plans without talking to me and let me take the blame for something that really shouldn't have involved blame in the first place. When we started discussing why he didn't tell me all of this and apologized from the very beginning when all of it happened, he just said that he didn't feel like it and was going to try to find out a way that he could use some of the money while also giving us both a wedding we were content with. I was, and still am, furious that not only was he okay with throwing me under the bus, but also hiding huge expenses from me. So willing to change our plans without so much as mentioning it to me, and was willing to insult, berate, and hurt me to get his way. When I told him how I felt about all of that, he actually said that he was sorry about that but was happy that he told me, so that I could see his side and we could compromise by cutting back the wedding and take the rest of the money and put it toward his brother. I guess he felt like I would change my mind about everything now that he'd come clean about everything, but when I told him that the money was still absolutely going back to my parents, he got pissed again because they don't need it anyways. We got into an even bigger fight about everything, and we decided to call the wedding off indefinitely until we sort through things. But right now, I'm not even 100% sure that I want to go through with the marriage at all, especially if this is going to be what our future holds. Now for more advice before reading the last update. Holy smokes. I think you did the right thing by calling the wedding off. A marriage is supposed to be a partnership. You and me against the world. He has displayed some very poor judgments here. His behavior basically told you that he puts his family above you. That's not how things are supposed to go. Next, you guys are going to agree to only have you two in the room when you give birth. His mother throws a hissy fit and wants the entire family there, and he supports them, not you. You guys then agree his parents can only visit twice per year. They show up unannounced for a 3-month-long visit and you want them to get a hotel. He gets mad at you and his parents end up staying and criticize everything you do. Then the parents move in. I suspect something like this was going on. I don't see why he should feel in any way that your parents should pay to send his brother to college. WTF? Exactly. The brother can go to another school that his family can afford instead. Just like almost every other college student out there. Exactly. Opie's parents have given her the money to spend on a wedding. They have not given her the money to put someone else's kid through college. It would be a totally different matter if Opie wanted to spend her and her significant other's joint money on a huge wedding. But the fact is, the money belongs to Opie's parents and they gave it with the intention of Opie having the wedding of her dreams. And that is the only thing it should be used for. I'm so sorry it's ended up like this. And I think you have made a right decision in calling off the wedding for now. I hope you find happiness and peace in the future through whichever path you take. Best of luck. Now for the final update. Since the last update, my fiancé and I were trying to resolve things, and even got into 2 therapy sessions and it seemed like things were looking up, and we were on our way to repairing our relationship even though it was a slow process. We went in for our 3rd therapy session and started discussing in deeper detail more about his family and the money issues. We were talking through it, and he still didn't understand why we couldn't just take the money my parents gave us and help his brother, because it technically was a gift. When I told him, again, that we weren't using the money for anything other than the wedding, if we even have a wedding, and I suggested that we use our personal money if we were going to help them, he completely ignored the last part and started yelling at me how selfish my family was because we were unwilling to help his family. He's never asked for serious help for his family before, and when he even asked at all, I helped them. When I pointed the fact that all he had to do was ask but he never did, he said that he shouldn't have to ask for help for our family, but that I should see that they were struggling and want to help them instead of having to be asked. When I told him that I couldn't read his mind, we got into a huge argument in the therapist's office, and he stormed out in the middle of the session. I followed him out and we argued more in the car. Then when we got back to the house, we continued arguing, and he said that he fought so hard for his family because his brother was the last chance they had. When I asked what that meant, he said that I should be trying to help them too, as it would be the least I could do since his brother was basically their only chance at expanding the family since I couldn't have kids. Then we got into a completely different argument about kids and how I can't have them. Before we even started seriously dating, we talked about kids. And before we found out that I couldn't have them, we both agreed that we didn't want them whether they were adopted or not. Then we found out that I couldn't have them for medical reasons, and we talked about it again. And we were both in agreement that we still didn't want them. Apparently, his parents have been pressuring him about that too. But again, instead of talking to me, he thought I'd change my mind later down the road. We got into a really awful argument, the worst one we've ever had, and it got a bit physical. I kicked him out and we officially ended our relationship the day after. I'm not sure what we're going to do about the house situation. It's in my name, but he doesn't really have anywhere to go. But I do know that our relationship is over for now, if not forever. It's in my name, but he doesn't really have anywhere to go. And that, my darling, is no longer your issue to worry about. He can move back in with his parents. It shouldn't be a problem since he values their opinions and input so much. My thoughts exactly. The way he's not wasting his money on rent, it can go straight to more important uses. So, his family feel entitled to your financial support for their other child because you can't give them grandchildren to which they feel entitled? And your fiancé feels entitled to put that crap on you. Wow. I hope you feel suitably entitled to cut their entitled butts out of your life forever, not just for now. Seriously, because finding out you can't have kids even if you decided you did want them isn't hard enough. His parents just went ahead and made her feel even worse. Talk about selfish, entitled a-holes. Good. He's a gold digger. And his family have their excavators at ready too. Does anyone think that sending the brother to college will solve all problems these people have, financial or otherwise?